Hi guys, today we will be looking at some farming strats for PoE 2, and for these farming strats we are going to rank them in order, and besides ranking them I also want to talk a little bit about each so that at least you have an idea of how to go about doing it or what's the um, strat for you, right? Because different strategies appeal to different people. So let's start with the first one, expedition. So as you can see, the top six over here are basically the core mechanics that the GGD devs have developed for us at Endgame, right? So first one, expedition. What you're trying to do is go into the atlas and then you you queue, as in you do the expedition mechanics, right? And then they will drop the logbooks. So what you do with the logbooks is you go to your NPC Dunning, and over here you can put in your logbook, and basically it brings you to a expedition map, and this expedition map has 25% chance to spawn a boss, right? So how does this currency farm work? Basically, you're just doing um, the expedition maps in the atlas, right? To drop the logbooks to then sell the logbooks to other people for them to try and find the boss, right? So after you kill the boss, you are getting the atlas points. So I would say this strat is a bit of like a pyramid scheme, right? You're trying to farm logbooks and then you're trying to pawn the logbooks off to the next person. So if we go to the trade side, expedition logbooks, let's see. Okay, item level, ideally you want to buy 78, right? And you can see it goes to about 10 exalted and then it jumps to 30. So I would say good price to sell at will be 30, right? We ignore the front few as they are likely not to reply, right? So each logbook drops, as in you can sell it at 30 exalts, and yeah, basically your atlas points would enable you to drop more logbooks. So if we can just quickly take a look over here, detailed records just increases the quantity of logbooks that are dropped, right? Yeah, so time for the ranking. I would say expedition would be D tier. So far I find that it's probably the worst farm that you can do, although it's simple, but the mechanics are not good, right? So you get artifacts as well as coins. So coins is meant for you to reroll the shops, and artifacts are for you to buy the item and craft on the item. So I tried doing this for like an hour and a half today, and I didn't get anything good, right? Everything was bad. I wrote like 100 coins, which is like 200 exalts. So my recommendation, if you really want to do expedition, is to farm the logbooks, sell the logbooks, and the exotic coinage as well. I think it's worth like 2 exalts for now. So you can sell those as well. Otherwise, I would stay off expedition, right, until they sort of buff the crafting in expedition. Okay, breach. So I think breach is probably the most famous farming strat popularized by Fabgun. Basically, he's the king of currency farms, right? So just going to go through quickly what you do for breach. So for breach, basically what you want to do is for all these towers, you want to put in your tablets which contain increased quantity of items. So currently I'm doing this, so you can see quantity of items, right? So you want to put in tablets with this modifier, right? Increase quantity of items found in your maps. Yeah, so basically you're trying to group up like a bunch of towers put in the tablets with increased quantity of items, and then do your breaches, right? So I would say if you do this strat properly, roughly 1 in 3 maps you will find a divine. So very easy strat to do, very profitable. I'll put it in a S tier. Okay, Delirium. So how do you exactly farm currency from Delirium, right? To put it simply, you have the distilled orbs, right? So you want to distill your orbs on the waystones. So for example, we have this waystone, right? And then we add the Delirium modifiers to the waystone. So once you're done with this, you can go to any map, right? We find a random map. So when you put in this map now becomes a Delirium map. So when we go in, yeah, you can see that the surroundings are gray. And when you kill the Delirium monsters, they spawn the splinters, right? If I can find one very quickly, usually they drop like very fast. Yeah, so they drop the simulacrum splinters, right? So I would say 300 of these splinters form a simulacrum. So we go to a currency exchange, simulacrum, exalted orbs. So as you can see, if you want to sell one simulacrum, you can get 192 exalted orb, which is like more than a divine, right? So that's basically how you farm Delirium. And I would say that if you're just farming maps in general, you want to make every map that you go into Delirium because Delirious, right? Because you're going to drop these splinters, and these splinters ultimately convert into a simulacrum right over here, which you can then sell, right? So I would say Delirium, because of the ease of use and the profitability, I would definitely put it in A tier, right? So this is like as you go along, as you farm maps, right? You're having Delirium splinters drop. So it's almost like a passive sort of income. Next up, retro. So for retro wise, me personally, I tried my very best, and I think many people have this experience as well, where without any retro points, you try to get the Audience of the King to drop. I mean, the Audience of the King to spawn in a retro. You know, I do 50 to 100 maps, right? This has not happened. And I would say the point of retro is that you would probably want to get your Atlas points before you do the mechanic, right? Because I tried to do the mechanic without the Atlas points, I didn't get anywhere. So if you want to start getting the Atlas points, you need to kill the boss, which basically comes from this item called Audience with the King. So how much is it? It's in divines is 8.4 divines, right? So the entry just to get the Atlas points to do the mechanic is very, very, very high for especially new players, right? So something that probably I want to mention, because initially I was quite confused about this, is that if you want to do, for example, Simulacrum, or you want to do Audience of the King, and you don't know where to put it in, you can click from your starting point and then just go a bit down to your home, and then you can put it in the realm gate over here, right? So you can put your Simulacrum inside here and you can fight the boss. Yeah, so going back to Ritual, basically you're trying to drop Audience with the King and expensive omens like the Whittling Omen. So let's just quickly check the price of that. I'm sure it's very, very expensive as well. Omen of Whittling, yeah, roughly 8 plus divines as well, right? So the problem with this is that although it's profitable, there's a very, very high cost of entry, which if you don't pay, you don't get the LS points, and then you really leave it up to luck, right? Because you might be farming 100 plus ritual maps and not getting the Audience of the King. So because of that, I think I'm going to put it under B because of the high cost of entry. Next one, Trail of the Sekhemas. So recently, I watched a YouTuber, and I'm going to link the video down below because I think it's quite interesting. So basically, what they are buying is, let's see, they're buying the Desperate Alliance Vast Relic. So basically, you put this relic before you start the Trial of Sekhemas, and it drops the Against the Darkness jewel, right? So you can just see what this jewel does. Right, so as you can see, it can be very cheap and it can go up to I think multiple divines, right? It really depends on what are the rolls you get in the Time Lost Diamond. So this one's a bit of a, I would say it can go up to like hundreds of divines, right? If you get really lucky with the line items that you get, right? I would say this is quite a difficult strat because you're trying to get through four levels, and what people are doing is they are getting relics with reduced merchant costs, and they are getting relics with merchants provide more options, right? So these two relics combined with the merchant boon that is decrease the percentage cost of boons by 50%. So all these three combined together, you can get basically free things in the merchant shop. So all your boons will be 0 sacred water. Once you get to that stage, you can basically buy up the entire shop. Every merchant you go to, you can buy up the entire shop. It makes the run super easy. But I think the issue that I still have with this farm that is that I think not many people like the Trail of Sekhemas. I personally don't really like it, and I think there's still a risk that you'll fail. I think I'll rank it under C tier. Okay, next up, Ultimatum. So how do you actually go about farming this? Basically, you go to the Temple of Chaos, right? So if you've gone through the campaign, you would have to do this as one of your quests to get your ascendancy points. So it's the same thing, except for farming ultimatums, you're basically looking at you're basically looking at, for example, area level 80 and number of trials 10, right? So these are the trials that you are going to farm, and you go all the way to finish the 10 trials and you get to the boss, right? So, sorry, before you get to the boss, you drop 3 soul cores, right? These soul cores, I mean, they rank from very cheap to very, very expensive, right? But I would say that um, when you're farming Trial of Chaos, right, I would recommend you to also farm the boss, right? Because the boss drops very, very expensive items, for example. So we go to boss loot table. Okay, um wait a minute. Okay, we go to Trial Master. So he drops this shield which can sell for multiple divines, and also the Adorn. Basically the Adorn, if it's rolled at least 80%, I would say, I mean it's worth like multiple divines, right? We can just check it out. The Adorn and increase effect of Jewel. Effect of Jewel. Wait, increase effect of Jewel socket passives. Effect of Jewel socket passives. Okay, so for example, minimum 80%. So these are worth this much, 110 divine orbs, because they are basically for the very, very end game builds which are trying to min max their damage, right? And if you drop one of these, I mean, you're basically is basically going to farm your next build, right? So I would say if you're farming Trail of Chaos, definitely try to do the boss. So I did not know this at the start, but basically when you reach the end of the Trail of Chaos, you will need 3 fragments, right? And when you finish the Trail of Chaos, you only get one of these fragments. So ideally, you want these 3 ultimatum fragments every time you finish the trial, right? So you can just buy it off the trade, buy it off Alva, right? I think not too expensive, right? Cowardly Fate is like 16 exalted. I think the rest are priced similarly. So you get these 3 and you fight the boss. Hopefully you get the Dawn Jewel, which, I mean, 110 divines, right? It's crazy. So I would say Ultimatum, very, very consistent. But me personally, I think the mechanic is very, very repetitive. And I don't know, I would put it under B, right? Very consistent profit, but not the most fun or interesting for me personally, at least. All right. So the next one we are going to go for is Reforging Essences or Soul Cores. So if you don't already know, you can use your Reforging bench over here, and let's see. So for example, I can take 3 soul cores and then I reforge, and then I can, sorry, you need 3 of the same soul cores. Oh my goodness. Essence, okay, for example, Essence of the Mind, right? So you can reforge 3 of this. Oh, this is a terrible showcase. Yeah, you can reforge 3 of these. Boom. Greater essence of electricity. Alright, so I mean this is a I mean this is a good showcase, right? So basic essence reforged into a greater essence. Let's see. Greater essence of electricity. How much is it? 76, right? And we reforged essence of the mind. Yeah, it's worth less than 1 divine. I mean 1 exalt. So as you can see, sometimes you get lucky, and this will require you to use the cheapest essences on the market and spam under the reforging bench to get, lucky. I think some of the greater essences are even more expensive, right? And you do the same thing with soul calls. I think the only downside to this farming, if you can even call it farming strat, is that I think it is very time consuming, right? And if you are buying these so-calls or the essences from the market, this all also takes up gold. And yeah, it's quite repetitive in nature. You're basically not really playing the game, I would say. It's just a interesting form of gambling. I would say reforging, it's okay in terms of profit if you can get through it, but it's not super great profits, right? So I'm gonna put it under C tier. That's my opinion. And we go on to profit crafting. So it's quite difficult to explain profit crafting because it takes on many forms, right? And the difficulty about profit crafting is that you need to know what are the meta builds. You need to know how to craft the items, for example, jewels or gear that pertain to these meta builds. For example, how do you craft wands, right? With +5 spell skills, and then they sell for like multiple divines to those people playing the Spark Archmage build, which is a very popular build, right? So profit crafting, I would say, um, it does, but it does make a lot of sense to learn over a long term. But for newer players who are just coming into the game, it might not be uh, that good as a first currency farming strategy, because I would say there's quite a lot of variance involved, right? Sometimes you fail the crafts and you lose currency, right? So that happens. I would say for me, profit crafting, probably B tier, right? You can just stay in your hideout, craft a bunch, and earn currency that way. It's a different way of playing the game. Some people like it. Okay, next up, boss carries. So boss carries wise, what exactly is boss carries? So under the Forbidden Trove, we have this tag, boss carry. So you can see over here, people are basically selling. Okay, for example, this guy, we he's he's gonna help you run your map and then clear simulacrum for 3 divs for each run, right? So you pay him the 3 divs, he clears the map for you, and why you're paying him this amount is so that you can get your Atlas points for simulacrum, right? So for me, because I didn't find any audience with the king, I can go on the Forbidden Trove Discord to find basically someone who would run the Audience of the King, and then I pay him divines to get my Atlas points, right? So basically this is what people are doing so that they can continue farming bosses with what you are paying them, right? I would say as a farming strategy wise, I would put it under C tier because as you can see, it's super competitive, right? A lot of people are doing it, and it takes a lot of patience to wait around and try to get people in your boss maps, and also um, I would say it's quite repetitive in nature, right? You're just killing the same bosses over and over again, and some people are fine with that, right? That's why we have a Discord with them, farming the bosses. Okay, next up, bossing. So how is bossing different from boss carries? Bossing basically, for example, we were talking about the Audience of the King earlier. So people are actually just buying audiences of the King from Alva, and then they are just running it themselves and trying to get the boss drops. So if we go back to the boss loot table and we go under which one? No. Yeah, go under the King of the Mist, right? See, the Ingenuity belt drops from the King of the Mist, which is the ritual boss. And Ingenuity belt sells for, I would say, roughly 20 divines, right? Depends on the role. And people are just buying up the Audience of the King, running bosses over and over again to farm the belt, and then they will just sell it on the trade website, right? So that is a very, very profitable way, but it also requires you to have a very strong build because you cannot be failing bosses, right? Every time you fail a boss, you are losing a lot of currency, right? So going back to bossing, I would rank this under B tier. I think it's super profitable if you are able to do it. And yeah, what you can do is, I think for early access, they already have multiple bosses. So if you get bored of one, you can just jump to the next because I'm sure if your build is strong enough to do one at difficulty 4, it's probably gonna clear the rest of the content, right? So yeah, bossing definitely B tier. Okay, Citadel farming. So what does this exactly entail, right? Citadel farming, basically, yeah, looking at your atlas, right? Recently, they had this patch where now a beacon of light beams in from the citadels, right? So citadel farming is basically looking at your atlas and trying to path as quickly as possible, right, to the citadel. And how do you farm the fragments from citadel? Is basically you want a waystone with 600% waystone drop chance, right? So if you have 600% waystone drop chance, okay, let me show you how to buy this on the trade side. So waystone drop chance, you go under waystone drop chance minimum 600. Right. So as you can see, I mean, they're all definitely going to be corrupted to have such a high waystone drop chance. But why you are trying to have at least 600% is because it guarantees you 2 fragments, and sometimes it can drop 3 citadel fragments. So basically it makes your map super profitable, right? If if we are gonna look at how much they cost right now. So for example, let's say the faded one, 225, so roughly 2 divines, right? So yeah, this is a super valid strategy, right? You're just trying to puff as quickly as possible to find citadels. And while puffing there, you can use your Delirium maps that you've crafted, right? As mentioned earlier, and this would get you additional currency. And because you are beelining your way to a citadel, this is a very, very fast way to traverse through your atlas, right? If you don't like staying at the same area. So with that, I would say citadel farming for me, I would put it under. Currently, I'm not super keen, but put it under B, right? I've done it a bunch. I think it's very, very profitable to do. But I believe that as more and more people clear the pinnacle boss, which is the bringer of ash, using all the fragments that I showed earlier, I believe the prices will drop, right? So yeah, it depends on the market situation as well, how profitable this will be in the future, right? Okay, trade site camping. So I think basically what trade site camping is, you're trying to get things for as cheap as possible, right? So for example, astramentis, right? One of the most expensive uniques. So you can search it, right? But after you search it, you can also use this called activate live search. Basically, let's say for buyout price, I want divine orb to be not more than 100 divines, for example, because instrumentus is very, very expensive, right? So as you can see, I mean, this one divine is totally, it's a rubbish trade, right? So we can click activate live search, and if someone really is keen on selling instrumentals at 100 divines, right, we will be notified, and then we can ping the seller, right? So you can do this with any of your other gear, right? Your jewels, try to get it for cheap, right? I think another thing that I think is super important to know about for the trade website now that we are over here is basically how do you use a weighted sum, right? So weighted sum is basically, for example, if we look at, so if you're a stat stacker, right, you want strength, intelligent, dex, but let's say you want 60, but you don't care whether it's strength, intelligence, or dex, right? So how do you use weighted sum? Basically, you put in what you want, and also you can put in all attributes, right? Because all attributes includes all three, right? So the weight basically means that there'll be one intelligence, one dex, and one strength. And all attributes, because they include each of them, your weight will be 3, right? So let's delete this. For example, if we want a breach ring, for example, right? So if you search, yeah, so your breach ring over here, you can see sum of 60, right? So it's basically summing up your dexterity and your intelligence. Yeah. So if you buy up price maybe maximum of 1 divine orb, you can put the sum like this, and wow, you can get a bridge ring for 1 divine with 110 of the all of the stats that you're looking for. It's a stat stacker, right? So there's just a sideline on how to use weighted sum. Hope it makes sense. So trade side camping, I would say, I think in general, if the item is too cheap anyways, the seller is going to get a lot of pings from everyone, so he is unlikely to sell it to you anyways. But I did get some gear cheaper than the market by doing this, so I would say in general, as people get better at trading, it's not as useful. So I'll put it under C tier mainly because it requires you to camp out, at a site. Basically, you activate live search and you play the game for hours and hope that someone leases something for cheap, right? Okay, next up, gambling for gold. Gambling for gold, how do you do this? Basically, you're going to go for Alva, and so let's say I'm looking for an upgrade for my helm, right? So I'm just going to buy energy based helm and hope that I get something like a base worth crafting on, right? So I think the strategy that I think most people are going for is that if they're going to gamble with gold, they're going to buy random amulets, because amulets, they can roll spirit, they can roll crit, they can roll mana, so it's good for a bunch of builds, right? I would say from what I've seen from other people doing this strategy, I would not say it's super profitable, and it takes a lot of time, right, to sort out the amulets. Definitely don't super recommend this strategy, but if you have a lot of gold, not sure what to do, right, you can try this out, see if you get lucky. I'm gonna put this in D tier. Okay, next up, gambling chance ops. So basically there are 3 items that you're trying to chance op, right? So under your filter, so this is filter blade, right? Basically the best filter that you can get for Path of Exile 2. Anyways, so chance op, basically is this one right here. Currency chance op, right? Orb of chance. Basically what you're trying to orb of chance is these 3 white bases, right? Heavy belt, sapphire ring, and stellar amulet. Sapphire ring, converts into dream fragments, so you can see the price of dream fragments, right? The lowest corrupted one is 85 divines. And the last one is stellar amulet, which is the astramentis, right? Just now we saw it's I think close to 200 divines. Yeah, so if you are going to ask me how I got my astramentis, it is actually from Orb of Chance. I did not buy white bases. I literally just used Orb of Chance and chanced one of my stellar amulets, and I got this, right? So although it's very, very unlikely, I think that you should still keep your Orb of Chances. Don't sell it, right? Use it on these 3 white bases over here, and hopefully you get something good for yourself, or you can sell it for a bunch of divines, right? Yeah, so just basically, but thinking about it, would I recommend you buying Orb of Chance and buying the white bases, for example, the Stellar Amulets, to use the Orb of Chance? I would say no, because um, I think the chances of getting a unique is very, very low, and you're more likely to lose currency than to, get lucky with it. But because I got the astramentis with it, I am biased, so I'm gonna put it under A tier, right? Alright, so before we get to the last strat, which is the question mark one, we have Alva stock market. So what does Alva stock market mean, right? So as you can see, Alva's right here. So let me give you an example, right? I want Divine Orbs, I have Exalted Orbs. So currently it's 188 Exalted Orbs to 1 Divine, right? So I have to give up 190 to get 1 Divine. Previously, I only had to give up, for example, 120 Exalted Orbs. So because of supply and demand and the market prices fluctuating, I am now poorer than if I bought the Divine Orb maybe last week, right? So I would say that this strat is basically you're trying to play the stock markets of like in PoE to um, they even call it the currency exchange, right? Yeah. So that is one thing you can try and do. Basically, you're trying to buy low and sell high, right? You're trying to predict where the market go. For example, if I predict that Divine Orb is going to be worth 300 Exalted Orbs next time, I better buy it now, right? Yeah, so that is just one strategy for Alva. There's another strategy that basically you're buying things in Exalted Orbs and then you're selling them in Divines. And then because the Divine Orbs that you're selling them for is way more than the Exalted Orbs that you bought it for, you're sort of making that difference in Exalted Orbs, maybe like 30 Exalted or 20 Exalted. So if you do it over time and this is completely AFK, right? You sort of like passively earn Exalted Orbs with that strategy. And personally, I just like to play the game. I just like to blast, right? As you can see, I'm not using the currency exchange to make any currency because that's not what I like to do, right? And yeah, you just play however you like to have fun. But I'm just showing you that this is one of the way that people are making a lot of currency, right? They're trying to, I would say, um, what they are trying to do is spread trading, right? Basically, as you can see that maybe Divine to Exalted is not that good, but probably if there are other two commodities, there will be a spread between the available trades and the competing trades. And that's where you can come in and try to earn the currencies. So me personally, I don't like this strategy because it's profitable, but usually when people figure it out, it's very time sensitive, right? So there's a very, very limited and short period of time where you can sort of like arbitrage the market, right? Me personally, I don't like it. That's why I'm going to put it in D tier, all right? Okay, so you might be thinking, so this is quite obvious, right? Breach is in S tier. Yeah, I'm just gonna farm breach, right? It's gonna put the tablets and farm breach. So what is this like secret last strategy that I've left for the last? So the last strategy I would say is basically what Elon Musk is doing, right? You basically pay someone to play the game and farm the currency for you, and you don't have to do anything, right? So you farm currency in real life to then, pay someone to farm currency for you. I think that's the easiest strat. You can just log into the game, and then you have all the gear, you have all the skill points, and yeah, from then on you can just play the game and have a good time, right? So S tier, Elon Musk strategy, right? So with that, I would say, yeah, that's all. That's basically all the endgame strategies that I personally can think of, right? I'm sure there might be more, right? You might have some other ideas which, you know, I have not thought of or have not seen, and I would love to know about them, right? Especially if they are like S tier strats. So other than that, yeah, that's all I have.